We have brought an end to the Ascian scheme and stopped the 8th Umbral calamity. We have some spare time after that whole ordeal, and Tataru wishes to hear about our journey. She wants us to tell it to Philomene as well, so she can hear about the world her daughter gave her life to save. We recount the tale to the both of them, and how Reen has taken up the mantle of the Oracle in Minfilia's stead. Instead of feeling anger or sadness that her daughter is gone, she's just happy to know her fate. Riol interrupts our discussion. He tells us that he will enter Garlemald to look for their helper. Oh, and before he forgets, Kral wants a word with the both of us. She is waiting in the Rising Stones. We move with haste to hear what Kral has to say. She has just finished examining their bodies and has found that something is wrong. The link between their body and soul is becoming fainter by the second. Thancred has the worst of it, as he has been gone the longest. Nobody knows what would happen to them if their link was severed, but she won't let that happen. She and Matoya will do everything they can to delay it from happening. In the meantime, we are to go to the first and see if there is any way of returning them to their bodies. If Graha was the one who summoned them, then the answer to bring them back lies with him. Doing as she said, we move to the first and enter the Crystal Tower. We ask that he gathers the rest of the Scions. They're going to want to hear this. We tell the Scions what Krile told us. Graha is still looking to sacrifice his life, even after we saved it. It will be a last resort if we run out of options. Instead of dwelling on that option, Y'shtola asks that we look at our summon success. We teleport between worlds as if it were an aetheryte, in possession of all of our items. If we could transfer their souls into white auracite and keep them alive long enough for us to traverse the rift, it may be all it takes to bring them home. If it comes to soul preservation and soul transference, Graha knows the exact person who could help. They were once in the royal court of Verbert. The only downside is that they're a recluse who refuses to speak to anyone. But we have worked with the Fey folk, and Titania is our familiar. This could help us convince them to aid our cause. Long ago, on the far shore of the Source, a great palace was built by the elves, the Grand Cosmos. An edifice of such magnitude, it was said to inspire envy in both the heavens for which it was named and the flowers that pervade its boundless gardens. As with so many wonders of the world that once was, its radiance quickly faded in the wake of the flood, its halls falling silent, the throne sitting empty. That is, until the place was given new purpose, when a mage claimed it as their sanctuary, their only company being solace, solitude, and the legion of familiars barring entrance to any foolish enough to seek an audience. Upon entering, we are swarmed by their familiars, and our might is tested throughout. The only familiar blocking our path to Bek Lug is Lucas, a familiar of flame, birthed by the recluse mage Bek Lug, whose original intent was to more efficiently create porxies. An experiment gone awry resulted in flames of a Fey lantern gaining sentience. Realizing that such a creature would be far better suited to protecting their domain, further research was conducted, leading to the creation of Lugus. But not even their fiercest familiar can stand against us. Bek Lug is impressed with our abilities and is willing to at least listen to what we have to say. We implore them to help us. We need the aid of a master of soulcraft, and they are the only one who can help our friends. Bek isn't so easily convinced. Even the court mages of Verbert convinced them that what they were doing was right, and in the end, it beget only misery. With the use of their magics, they caused the magical plague of Verbert. Something we haven't covered just yet, as it is mainly disclosed in the tank role quest for Shadowbringers. We'll get to that eventually. We can see why they are unwilling to cooperate, but we will take every opportunity handed to us to save our friends, even if Soulcraft has a high potential to go wrong. Bek is convinced by our conviction and returns to the Crystarium with us so we can talk about this matter in private. The Exarch tells Beck everything about our fate thus far. Normally they would ignore such a tale, but upon closer inspection, they can see that the Scions do not have corporeal forms. In exchange for their aid, a tale as intriguing as this one is seen as fitting payment. For once, they would like to see their magics put to good use. They will make it their goal to send us home, as fitting payment for all the services we did to Norvrand. They would first like to know if we have any ideas as to how we might return home. We tell them our plan to use the white auracite, which would have worked with an ordinary soul, but not one such as ours. Our soul is constantly drawing on the nearby ether and is in a state of activity. To place the soul into the white auracite, we would need to place the soul into a state of inactivity. To do so would leave them a lifeless husk, as the mind has been separated from the soul. Alisaie regards that this sounds the same as the patients at Journey's Head. Beck-Lug wishes to be taken there. They do not know if they can treat them until they arrive, but they believe that there is something to learn there that will help our friends return home. We move to Journey's Head, and Beck-Lug inspects Halric. They wish to administer a treatment to the patients. It is a tonic which stimulates the ether in your body. For those who are too far gone, it barely has an effect. However, those who are in the early stages are relieved of their pain. The tonic only affects the corporeal ether. The patients that are too far gone have symptoms in their incorporeal ether. That is why it didn't do anything to them. As the realm is no longer awash with light, they may recover as their souls will eventually return to equilibrium. But that could take decades. He could awake one day to find himself an old man. Alisaie begs Beck to at least hasten their recovery. Beck agrees to do it only because they believe that helping them recover may also help our own predicament. What they need is the purest water and the finest clay. They also need a fey lantern brimming with pixie magic. With all of these items together, they can conjure a familiar, able to amplify the ether revitalizing magics that is poured into it. Alphinaud and Alisaie will go to Eulmore to get the lantern and the water, and we are sent to get the clay. We happen to know a few miners in Twine, specifically Magnus, Tharf, and Jerick. They point us in the direction of where we could get some clay. Our best bet would be Mount Byron Mines. Heading there, we find the clay we need and return to Beck-Lug. By the time we return, Alisaie and Alphinaud have also returned with the water and the lantern. With these items, Beck can begin the spell, but before they can start, Alisaie wishes to perform it instead, which turns out in her favor. A deep understanding of the patients can drastically increase the potency of the spell. Therefore, Alisaie would be the most ideal person to do it. She is instructed to construct a porxie out of clay. Her attempt at it is quite... well, at least she tried her best. Beck consoles her, as this magic will take imagination and turn it into reality. All she needs to do is hold the image of a porxie in her mind. She repeats the incantation Beck taught her. With flesh of clay I bid thee rise, on wings of dreams to touch the skies. What once was idle fantasy, I call forth to reality. Suddenly the clay stirs, and imagination is given form, a form of a pixie. It is given the name Angelo, and is commanded to use magics which can stimulate Halric's soul. A blue veil of ether surrounds him, and what was once a dormant expression is suddenly given emotion, as if he had just woken up from his slumber. He looks around him, trying to find out where he is. He calls out to his mother. His eyes well up, and a single tear rolls down his face before he returns to his dormant state. Beck is pleased with this kind of reaction. There is no doubt in their mind that Halric will make a full recovery if the treatment is continued, but we cannot continue it straight away. It is strenuous for both the caster and the castee. Beck wishes to return home so they can put their theories to the test. They believe that they can fashion a spell to produce the opposite effect seen here, to induce stagnation, to allow our souls to enter the white auracite and be brought home. Even though we already said it takes a lot out of the caster, Alisaie is going to stay here at Journey's Head to tend to the other patients. She is full of fight now that she has a way to ease their suffering and potentially cure their illness. In the meantime, the rest of us should return to the Crystarium, or at least we should have if we were not stopped by none other than Kai Shear. He tells us that Lady Chai has requested us to come to Eulmore this very instant. All of us together move to Eulmore to find Lady Chai and see what all the fuss was about. We thought she was maybe being dramatic, but it seems that her husband has gone missing. They had to choose a new leader, and the people voted for Master Chai, for his leadership qualities shown during the construction of the giant Talos. Shortly after winning, he disappeared without such a word. We don't believe that he is the kind of man who would shy away from this responsibility. There must be a good reason for this, and we are going to find out exactly why he is gone. We ask around Eulmore to see if the people had seen Master Chai leave. What we learn is that in fact he went around asking the people about the troubles in Eulmore. He spoke to Mowen about the stagnant state of business in Eulmore. He spoke to Korneni about the perilous state of Eulmore's defense. He spoke to Hathenbet about the poor living conditions of Calusia's downtrodden. From this information, we can discern that he has shown concern for Eulmore and its settlements. That leads us to believe that he must have moved from Eulmore to the nearby settlements and asking them the same questions he did here. We moved to right, and the people did speak to Master Chai. He seems determined to salvage what goodwill remains between the settlements. As we can infer from our information thus far, the only place he hasn't visited is Amity. We should find him there. Our deduction skills are as good as ever, and we find Master Chai standing outside of the village. We question his disappearance. He is confused. He left a letter for his wife to read so she wouldn't be worried. Either way, he has searched for the problems that plague Calusia, whilst trying to garner the resources to fix them. Only then will he take the role of mayor. One specific resource lies in Amity. They are named Rendon. He was the chief advisor of Vorthri's father when he was in office. He is only an entrepreneur, but Rendon is a man of law. With the two of them working together, it could bring about a new age of peace and prosperity to Eulmore. He spoke to Rendon earlier, but he left mid-conversation, believing that his time was better spent elsewhere. We should question the people within Amity to see why he acted so. There is only one person we know in this village that may respond to us earnestly, and that is Tristol. He tells us that Rendon is an uncompromising man. He has principles and refuses to speak to those who are uncommitted to their own. Master Chai needs to declare his intent with more resolve, commit to the role of mayor, and prove that Eulmore is willing to change. Rendon has moved over to Pit 8 not too long ago and should still be there, but Master Chai must remember to be clear in his intentions. Eventually, we find Rendon. He remembers Master Chai from before. Again, he repeats what he intends to do, to make a Eulmore that's able to stand on its own 2 feet. Rendon doesn't trust him. He was forced out of Eulmore as his laws didn't have a place in Vorthri's paradise. Master Chai allowed himself to wallow in indolence, which was true. Eulmore offered sanctuary where everywhere else offered fear and despair, but they have had their fill. He wants Eulmore to become a nation that citizens might choose to build together, and he needs Rendon's counsel to do it. Rendon thinks about his words before announcing that he likes the sound of that. But before he will help, he will have Master Chai prove himself. He must solve a problem of Eulmore on his own. If he does, he will prove that he is a man worth following. The problem Rendon will have him solve is the dwindling food problem. The solution is not easy as first observed, as the problem truly lies in 2 different places. The first being the supply of food, and the second being the production of it. Eulmore's endless reservoir of coin can be used to purchase food, but simply purchasing food isn't enough. They need to work with the settlements and rebuild them. Then the settlements that used to serve as sources of foodstuff must be repopulated to restore the production of food once more. To rebuild said settlements, the heir to the Daedalus stoneworks, Chai-Nuzz, will use the wandering Talos in the fields. There is a simple way to deactivate such a mechanical being. They produce these canisters with powder that would halt the flow of ether in the Talos. If Master Chai wishes to make a Eulmore that stands on his own 2 feet, then he must be the first to do so. He will use these canisters to stop the wandering Talos, putting himself in danger. He must prove himself a man worth following. He will need our help in making sure it is safe to go do the deed. We will call when no creatures are nearby and when the Talos has his back turned. Then he will ambush it with the canister, halting the flow of ether. We do this for 2 of the Talos, and on the 3rd, Master Chai gets cocky and does it all by himself. He returns victorious. All 3 Talos have been secured. Rendon believes that he owes Master Chai an apology. At first he didn't believe that he had it in him, but he cannot deny these results. Of course he would lend him his counsel, and together they will build a better Eulmore for all. We take the Talos down the ladder and march them to Eulmore. At first the people are scared and call the guard, thinking that they are just the wild Talos they normally see. But soon after they see us standing underneath it. Now that the people behold his Talos, they are more willing to lend him their strength. With Rendon by his side, he is finally ready to take office. Both Kai Shir and Rendon will spread word among both the free citizens and the bonded that they are to gather in the Emergent to meet with their new mayor and hear his inaugural address. Both citizens of the free and the bonded are gathered here in the Emergent, and it doesn't stop there. Even citizens of Gatetown and the Derelict are present. Master Chai is trying to shake off his anxiety and mentally prepares himself to address his people for the first time.
Thank you all for gathering here today. But before going any further, could I ask the free citizens of Eulmore to look around? 'Tis a sight none of us would ever have seen under Lord VIII's rule. Not only do we stand in the familiar presence of those we once called the bonded, but today we welcome the peoples of the derelicts and Gatetown too. Today we welcome the warriors of darkness, come to bear witness to Eulmore's new beginning. As you know, an election was recently held, at the end of which I had the honor of being chosen to succeed Lord VIII. You place great faith in me, and I promise to do my utmost to live up to your expectations, and I will seek always to carry out the duties of this office with integrity and fairness. Always, I say, but not forever. Let it be known that I do not intend to hold this post indefinitely. I consider myself but an acting mayor, who will serve only for the interim, while Eulmore is reshaped according to a new set of values. No longer can we think of ourselves as divided, as the free and the bonded, citizens and non-citizens. The systems put in place by Lord VIII must be undone. But even as we tear down the old, we must give thought to the new, to what manner of nation Eulmore should become. Whatever the answer may be, it cannot be decided by one man alone. And so I propose that an open forum be held, that we might all discuss how best to strive towards a better future. However, there can be no talk of the morrow unless we first address the issues of today. Securing new sources of food, rebuilding relations with our neighbors, re-establishing industry. There is much and more that needs to be done. Too much for a mere man of business. And so I pledge instead to do everything in my power to ensure our city's security and stability while we all work together to see these problems solved. The road before us will not be easy, and I know full well How daunting the prospect of honest labor may seem to some of you, but we must accept the reality of our circumstances. We must move forward. This much we owe to ourselves and to the brave heroes who risked their lives to bring back the night. Once we have shored up our city's foundations and regained some semblance of normality, let us reconvene to speak of the future. Until then, I humbly ask that you lend me and each other your strength. For Eulmore!
All of the emergent is roaring in applause. Master Chai has won the people over. Eulmore can finally start anew. This place was once known as the City of Final Pleasures. Instead, it shall be known as the City of New Endeavors. With the speech finished, our job here is done. With nothing left to do, we can now finally return to the Crystarium to see how our friend's progress is coming along. It seems like some new problems have arisen. After a long discussion about soul transference, they have decided that white auracite is no longer an option. The original plan would have worked if it were not for their minds. Because they need to enter the white auracite with their minds intact, it is not possible. They can transfer either the soul into the white auracite, sacrificing their mind, or vice versa, but not both together. We are back to square one with our findings. We need to find a way to transfer both mind and soul together. G'raha remembers this sort of magic relates to his royal Allagan eye. Maybe if we can discern how the Allagans achieved such a feat, we could use these technologies to transfer mind and soul both. But in the meantime, we are to travel back to the source and keep both Tataru and Kryle up to date on our findings. Back at the Rising Stones, Tataru is here, and Kryle is administering some treatment to the Archons. We are to await her return, and tell both of them what is going on. Eventually, Kryle finishes treating their bodies with Matoya's technique, which should slow down their ether destabilization by quite a bit. We recount what we have learned on the first thus far. While they search to find a way home, Kryle will continue to postpone the destabilization. We hear the sound of a door, and Estinian has just arrived to the Rising Stones. He has come to report that the situation in Garlemald has become more complicated. Instead of trying to report on the link pearl, he decided it would be better to return here and report in person. He met Gaius Balezar in his search for Black Rose. Their goals aligned, so they worked together. Eventually they found themselves in the Imperial Palace, but there he saw a man who all assumed dead. Xenos, yea, Galvus. And he had just slain his father in cold blood. An uncontrollable rage took over Gaius, and he charged at him. Suddenly, both Kryle and our Echo activates, granting us a vision. We see Estinian, Gaius, and Xenos in the Imperial throne room, moments after Gaius attacked Xenos directly. He had just been sent flying by a single strike. Gaius' strength alone isn't enough to beat Xenos. He himself is nearly an Ascian, and something the Warrior of Light struggled to fight against. Yet the strength of both the Black Wolf and the Azure Dragoon together may be enough to handle him. But even with their combined strength, they are unable to so much as phase him. Before they can continue their battle, the Garlean army arrives to the throne room to see their emperor dead. They are not going to blame Xenos for his death, but assume that Gaius and Estinian were the ones that did it. They are forced to fight their way out. In every corridor, they are stopped by numerous soldiers. It eventually gets to a point where splitting up would be better, as together, they're a bigger target. Gaius takes the high road, whilst Estinian jumps down to take the lower path. On the lower path, he collides with new untested Garlean technology, Arc Ultima. It takes the strength of the previous Ultima, but added even more power to it. It studied the combat skills of Gaius and copied his strikes. It studied the combat skills of Xenos and copied his strikes. In the end, they activate its full power, which makes it invulnerable to all damage. But with the help of Nidhogg, Estinian deals a blow to the malformed creation and destroys the nearby fuel cells that were powering it. Our vision ends here. We awake to see that Estinian didn't finish his story, as he noticed both Kral and us gleaned his past. But no matter, the Emperor is dead, and thus the Empire has been thrown into disarray. Whilst there may be civil wars throughout the provinces, they will never muster the strength to launch an offensive on Gimlet Dark. Xenos has removed the Black Rose from this world as well, therefore we should have nothing to worry about anymore. Still, we'll keep Riol and the Shinobi on the lookout, just in case something goes awry. With the Black Rose gone, Estinian has fulfilled his part of the bargain. He is no longer inclined to stay, and he has other things to do. Therefore, he bids us farewell. There isn't anything else for us to do but tend to the Archon's bodies and wait for them to find an answer to the problem plaguing their return. Meanwhile, in Garlemald, just as Estinian said, there is chaos in the Empire. Each legion is fighting against each other as a war for succession rages on after the Emperor's demise. Xenos is watching this unfold from the rooftop. Suddenly, a mysterious white-robed man appears behind him. One would assume that this would be Elidibus, yet not even Xenos knows who he is. All he tells him is that he is a dog who is looking for a new master. Though I suppose you could say hunting dog, for he knows the prey he next seeks. Zodiac. Meanwhile, in Eulmore in the First, we are in Gatetown. The people are discussing the new mayor. He is reopening Daedalus Stoneworks and rebuilding abandoned villages. Anyone who wishes to move will be granted the aid of the Talos. He has given them steady work and lodging, a perfect recipe for hope. An unknown man is watching this conversation. He mutters to himself, "Hope. Yes, for as long as I live, I will see that feeble flame rekindled." We do not know who this man is, but he wears the skin of Ardbert. For we know the real Ardbert fused with us during our battle against Emet-Selch. For what purpose has he done this? We will find out later.